Man, the summers were hot when I was growing up. We had a few ways to beat the heat. We had water hoses, swimming, and just doing nothing. Well, doing nothing was not much of an option, so we mainly chose water in some form or fashion. We had several places to go swimming in our local neighborhood during the summer. We had Chickasaw Pool, which we had to pay to get into. And our moms would graciously pay our way in, drop us off at the pool early in the morning, and she'd come back and pick us up late in the afternoon before the pool closed. And of course, the high dive was always the highlight of any day we went to the pool. We would get up on the high dive and terrorize anyone, lifeguards included, who happened to be within a can opener splash. Now, we would occasionally head off to Gulf Shores or Dolphin Island for a family outing, but those were the rare moments. Then there were the days we didn't have the money to get into the pool, so we just opted to go to the local swimming pool. H&W is what we called it, but it's now called Chickasaw. Well, at H&W we had many more ways to enjoy ourselves. I mean, we could swim into the cool of the dark black water or lay in the shallow water. Every now and then a fishing boat would come through and we would scream for them to make waves so we could enjoy a fake beach and pretend to surf. Or we'd float for hours on an old inner tube, just letting the gentle current move us along and let us just get sunburned. Well, H&W was on a slight curve in the creek that straightened up after it went under the bridge. The bridge was actually an overpass on the Interstate 65. Now, on those really raring days, we would ascend to the top of the bridge and sit on the concrete guardrail waiting for the moment that it would be your turn to jump into the black water. It usually didn't take too much waiting because the concrete up there was blistering hot, and there were the occasions when a state trooper would come by with his lights on and he would run us all off the bridge. So you had a couple of options there. You could climb back down the base of the bridge and run screaming back into the water, or you could take the shortcut. Well, jumping off the bridge was the ultimate test of peer pressure. You either jumped or you were labeled a sissy for the rest of the summer. Well, I was not going to be called a sissy, so I jumped. And I fell towards the water, falling for what seemed like about 2 minutes, and all the while trying to keep my body vertical by waving my arms frantically until I made contact. Well, the water, the height of the bridge, gravity, and your weight, they all added up to a stinging sensation on the bottom of your feet that would take 5 minutes to go away when you hit the water. Man, that was great fun. We also had a rope that was tied to the largest tree on the opposite side of the bend. The rope was about 4 inches around and had a huge knot tied at the end of it. Swinging from this rope would propel you way out over the darkest water, and snap! You were jerked loose from your death grip and slung out over the water in a position that depended on whichever way your flexibility and muscles would allow you to get into before you crashed into that cold, heart-stopping water. Well, some of us had the timing down so we could each reach the apex of the swing and release before the jerk, perform some flips, jackknives, just plain old dives. We would then swim back to the tree, climb onto the tree roots where we'd stand in line waiting for the others to complete their swings. The wait on some hot days could be extremely long, especially if there was a first-timer on the rope. Now, these first-timers, or rookies, would get up there and ponder the validity of what they were about to do. Meanwhile, we were down at the base of the tree yelling and screaming at them, "Jump, jump!" And we were starting to dry out, and that was never good for that re-entry into that icy cold water. Well, one such day, we were all standing at the bottom of the tree waiting for Tim to retrieve the rope and perform his usual swan dive when one of the group announced he had to pee. Well, being boys, we really didn't care that much about his need, so we just told him to take it to the woods and knock himself out. Well, this fellow decided to relieve himself 5 feet from where we were standing, right on the top of a water moccasin's head. Well, that snake didn't take too kindly to being disturbed in this manner. It was content to sun itself as we swam just feet from it, as long as we didn't include it in our antics. Well, we managed to do that, and it made a beeline for the water, slipped into the blackness right at the base of the tree and swam out on the surface before disappearing beneath the water right in the middle of our landing zone. The yell of "Snake!" went out, and there was a mad scramble to the top of the tree. Within seconds, we were all perched on limbs of the tree, wondering how we were going to get back across the creek. We all stood up there in the tree, laughing at how fast we'd all managed to get up there and how much space that tree really had in it. Well, we waited and waited, and I guess Tim had had enough of the waiting, and he was the first to decide he couldn't wait any longer. He grabbed the rope, swung out as far as he could, and hit the water. Never went under, but kind of skipped across the water to the beach. Well, being next in line, I wasn't going to wait around for an invitation either. I jumped out as far as I could, heading towards the water in a dive. Well, the people on the other side who saw me, they had this to say about when I jumped. They said I started swimming before I hit the water. I don't really remember going underneath the water at all. But I do know I set some sort of record that I don't even think Michael Phelps could beat. Well, I heard screams and laugh as the rest of the tree dwellers exited their perch and entered the water. There were so many bodies hitting the water at the same time, and they created higher waves than any boat could ever have produced, washing ashore for all the kiddies in the shallow part of the creek. People floating on their inner tubes were flipped over, rafts were pushed high in the air, riding on the crest of the new waves. We all pulled ourselves up on the shore and lay there in the beach, watching for any sign of snakes. Well, we never did see that snake again. And we eventually got the nerve to go back across the creek and up the tree, onto the rope, where we started the routine all over again. Only this time, and from that point on, whenever we had to go pee, we peed in the water.